Okay, Be'ezus Hashem, today's daf is daf Yud Tes, and we will begin from daf Yud Ches and Beis about 10 lines from the bottom. Okay, hold on. Let's just make it bigger. Okay, hi Lewis. We just began. We're beginning on Yud Ches and Beis about 10 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabbanim, the rabbis taught. What we're discussing over here is how many times could a man take his wife to the Beis Hamikdash to have her drink the magical Sotah waters? How many times? So the Pasuk says, Tanu Rabbanan, Zois Tairas HaKanois. This is the laws of Kanois, which is plural. Many times a person suspects his wife, he can bring her to the Beis Hamikdash to drink the Sotah waters. Malamed, this teaches you, that a woman could drink and repeat the process again if her husband is accusing her again a second time. So they'll come back. Says the Gemara, says the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda says Zois, but it says this only one time. You only get one time at bat. That a woman cannot come back and drink and repeat the process. If she was found innocent, and then let's say a year's time, her husband suspects her again for adultery, he can't bring her back for the Sotah waters. Rabbi Yehuda said, Masa, there was a story, that was testimony that was said in front of us, by Nechunya, who's the digger of wells. Okay, a sewer worker. I don't know. He was he dug the water wells, and he said, and he lived in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. He remembered Sheisha, there was a woman, Shoisa, she drank once, V'shayna, and she came back again for the second time. V'kibalnu edusai, and we accepted that what he was saying is true, but not exactly. The reason why she came out again, Bishnei Anashim Avaloi B'Yishechad. This woman got married again. In other words, her first husband brought her to drink the Sotah waters. And then her husband died. She married a second person. Just the second guy found her fooling around again or thinking. So he brought her to drink the Sotah waters. So that's how it happened that a woman could drink twice. She had two husbands. But Chachamim are very strict. A woman cannot drink and repeat the process, whether she's with one person, one husband, or two husbands. A woman, once she went through the process of drinking the Sotah waters, she'll never come back to the Beis Hamikdash under those pretenses. So now the Gemara says, the Tanna Kama says that a woman could come back. So the Gemara's question is, the Tanna Kama, right? The Tanna Kama says that the woman could repeat. If her husband accuses her again, she could drink the Sotah waters again. That's how could it be? Haksiv, the pasuk says Zois. You could only do it this time, not many times. So how could the Tanna Kama hold they repeat the process? Rabbanan Basroi Name, in the Rabbanan, the Chachamim who are most strict, and says that it's impossible for a woman to drink twice the Sotah waters. Haksiv Toiras. It says that these are the laws of that Hakanois. So it's plural. It's mashma. It implies that this same woman could be drinking twice. So how do you square off all these Tanoim? So Amar Rava said like this: Ish echad, with one person, with one husband, ubayel echad, and he's accusing her of one adulterer. Okay, he's accusing her of the same person. So there, and then she drank the Sotah waters and she was found innocent. She can't come back again. The kuli amaloi pligi, nobody would argue the eini isha shoysa v'shayna, that the woman cannot drink and repeat the process. With this same adulterer and the same husband, then she doesn't repeat the process. The Ksiv, we go to Yud and Aleph, the Ksiv, the pasuk says Zois, that the pasuk says thus, once. So you do it one time. B'shnei anashim u'shnei bayalim, let's say it's the same woman. She got married to two people. Her first husband died, and second, she married the second guy. For each of the husband, if there are two adulterers that each of the husbands suspect her for having an affair with, then each one of the husbands could have brought her to the Beis Hamikdash to drink Sotah waters. The kuli amalei pligi, there is no argument. The isha shoysa v'shayna, a woman could drink and repeat the process. The ksiv, the pasuk says toiras. Toiras implies a plural many times. So ki pligi, when is the machlokes tanoim? The ish echad, you have one husband, ushnei bayalim. He's accusing the same woman, but the first time he brought her to drink is with one adulterer. He's accusing her of having an affair with this person, and the second time is with another person. Or the machlokes is about b'shnei anashim u'bayil echad. Let's say you have two husbands, she got married twice, but each one is accusing her of having an affair with the same adulterer. So that is the machlekes between Tanakama, Rabbanan Basra'i, and Rabbi Yehuda. Tanakama, the first Tana holds Toiras. It says Toiras. That means you could include everybody. L'rabuye kuli. It includes many times. That means many times, if as long as there's somebody different in the picture over here, either there's another husband or another adulterer. Toiras says she could drink Saita waters again. Zois, when the Torah says she can only drink one time, Lemeuti, that's coming to exclude Ish Echad Ubayel Echad. If there's one husband and the same adulterer, the husband cannot bring her a second time to the Beis Hamikdash to drink the Saita waters if he's accusing her of the same adulterer. You get one chance for one guy. That's the Tanakama's opinion. Rabbanan Basroi Savar, Rabbanan, the last Rabbanan are more strict. They hold Zois Lamuute Kule. A woman generally is not going to drink Saita waters twice because it says Zois only one time. Toiras, when the Torah says Toiras, so then L'Rabuye, that's coming to include and include Shnei Anashim Shnei Bayalim. If there are two things, one, you have two men, two different husbands, and two different adulterers, then that's the only time that the woman could drink twice. Once from the first marriage with this guy, and once from the second marriage with the second guy. But each husband was accusing her of having an affair with a different adulterer. That's the Rabbanan. Rabbanan Basrai says it's rare that a woman will drink twice Saita waters. Rabbi Yehuda is the in-between. Zois lemuute tarte, Toiras lerabui tarte. Zois says you're excluding when there's two different people, and Toiras means you include when there's two different people. The Chama had to figure out, the Torah says only once, and the Torah says about a woman, she could drink Saita waters a few times. So how do you square it off? Rabbi Yehuda does it this way. Zois, when the Torah says a woman drinks one time, lemuute tarte, that excludes even if there are two people involved, for example, but it has to be one husband. Ish echad b'ilechad, if the same husband with the same adulterer, certainly she will not drink twice. Even it's ish echad, it's one husband, ushnei bayalim, by even if it's two, he's accusing her now the second time to having an affair with another person. He won't make her drink the Saita waters again because Chacham saw that if this guy is a jealous guy, and therefore she was already found innocent once, so now he's coming up. No, she's having an affair with somebody else. This husband is a nervous guy, and we don't put her through the whole process again. That's what Rabbi Yehuda learns, and therefore Toiras is when the Torah says she drinks many times. Rabui is tarte. It's marba that sometimes she could drink twice. Why? She could drink if there's two different people involved. For example, Shnei Anashim, if it's two different husbands, and even though it's the same adulterer, or Shnei Anashim, two different husbands, Shnei Bayalim, two different adulterers, sure, in those cases, she will drink twice, because since there are two different husbands, so you can't say it's this, they're both nervous guys. Each one never had a chance to give her, each one is going to get one shot to give her to drink Saita waters. And so that is the machlekes, a good machlekes of how many times will a woman be allowed to be brought up to drink Saita waters. Hadron alach, hoya maybe. That's the end of the Hadron alach, hoya maybe. At the end of the second parak. Now we begin the third parak. And if you went through the Chumash that we did the psukim, this should be very familiar. It's very simple. Hoya noitel es minchasa. The husband would take her mincha. Again, I guess he paid for it, and it's barley flour, and he would take the mincha that she brought, mitoch kfifa mitzris, because she brings it in like an ugly Egyptian basket. And the noisna, now when they get to the Beis Hamikdash, he puts it l'soich kli shares into a vessel that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. The husband takes that basket and spills the contents of the barley flour into that holy vessel that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, thereby being mekadesh the contents inside as a mincha. Benoisna al yada. Wow, and he makes her carry it. So I guess he's carrying this 5-6 pounds of flour. Now before the kohen now has to do what's called a tnufa. So How do you have to wave it together with the lady. The kohen miniach yodai mitachtel. The kohen puts his hand underneath her hands. So you see over here that it wasn't such an isser for a kohen, a man kohen, touching her hands and umenifa, and then start waving it up, down, right, left. Perhaps, as Tosis discusses, since he's only doing it for a short period of time, we're not so concerned. It's almost like giving a handshake to a woman, or it's what does Tosis say? But they actually do maniach mapa. They use an old kind. That's what he said. Maniach papa. They put a handkerchief between his hand and her hands. But the point is that the kohen needs her hands, and his hands is underneath, and they wave it because he has to lead the process. If after the wave, the higish, the kohen brought the flour in the kli shares to the maravis droimis, the southwest corner of the mizbeach, and he just touches the keli to the mizbeach. Then kamatz, at that point, he scoops out a scoop with his, as you know what kamitza is, he scoops out with the 3 fingers a portion of the flour, and then he goes up on top of the ramp, the hikter, and he throws it onto the fire of the mizbeach. And then what do you do with the rest of the flour barley? V'hashar, the rest of it, nechol hakahanim, is eaten to the kahanim. I guess they bake it into matzahs, barley matzahs, and they eat it. Now, then the Mishnah Brisa says, then the Mishnah says something strange. Hoya mashka v'achakach machriv es minchasa. The Mishnah says she would drink first and then bring up the mincha. So that makes no sense because you just already told me that she brought the mincha and actually threw it onto the fire. Now the Mishnah says she would drink first and then be makra of the mincha. So we'll have to try to make sense of that. But that's the opinion of the Tanakama. That first comes the drinking of the sotah waters, and then the kohen brings the mincha on her behalf. Rabbi Shimon says no, the opposite. Makrav is mincha. So first you makrav the mincha, and then afterwards he would give her to drink the sotah water. Shnema, because the pasuk says after you give to drink the water, afterwards you give the sotah drinks the water. So first, according to Rabbi Shimon, you makrav the mincha, and then afterwards you drink the sotah waters. But Rabbi Shimon agrees a little bit. Im hishka v'achakach hikra ves minchasa. If she drank the sotah waters and then the kohen was makrav the mincha, keshera, in the end game, it's kosher. So now the Gemara wants to explain the Mishnah and explain the Mishnah and explain the sources of the Mishnah. Remember, we said that the kohen will take his hand and put it directly under her hands and lift the whole vessel that's containing the contents of her mincha. So how do you know that? So Amar Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yoshia Tidari. Rabbi Lazar said to the Rabbi Yoshia who lived in his generation. There was a Rabbi Yoshia that lived who was a Tana that also lived. Was an old man. So Rabbi Lazar, the Gemara makes emphasis that he was speaking to this Rabbi Yoshia, not the one that's in the Mishnayos, but the Rabbi Yoshia who is the Amoira, who is a colleague of Rabbi Lazar. And therefore, Rabbi Lazar feels heimish that he could say this to him. Loi teisiv, I don't want you to take a seat. Akarach, stand on your feet. Until you explain me but what's troubling me. And so therefore, he's demanding an explanation. How do you know a mincha soita needs to be waved with the kohen? How do you know it needs to be waved with the kohen and the woman? Minalan. So first the Gemara asks, what do you mean? How do you know a mincha soita needs to be waved? The pasuk says that the mincha soita should be waved. So what are you asking? It's an open pasuk in Chumash. But the question I'm asking, says Rab Lazar, is Babalamano. How do you know she has to participate in the waving, that he sticks his hand underneath hers? How do you know that? So the Gemara says, Asin yad yad mishlamim. There's a Gzeira Shava. It says the word yad, and it says the word yad by soita, and it says the word yad by shlamim. And therefore we have a Gzeira Shava. Ksiv Hachat says over here by soita, V'lokach hakoyen miyad ha'isha. It says the kohen takes it from the hand of the woman. So it says the word yad. Uksiv hasam, it says by the shlamim, Yodov Tivieno, his hand should bring the shlamim. So Makan, just like, so we learn back and forth. You see, the Torah tells you something by soita that it doesn't tell you by shlamim. And it tells you something by shlomin that it doesn't tell you by soita. So what does it tell you by soita? Makan, by soita, a kohen has to be involved in the waving. Af lahalan, so also when it comes to a shlomin, the kohen has to be waving the shoik and the breast. Malahalan, and just like over there by shlomin, it says explicitly balim that the owner has to participate in the waving. Afkan ba'alim, so also the owner has to participate in the waving. So they both have to do it at the same time. So that's what the Mishnah explained. Hoya ketzad. How do you square that off? Meniach yodei tachas yadei habalim. The kohen puts his hand underneath the hand of the owner. By the shlamim, it's the man who's bringing the shlamim, and by the soita, it's the woman. He brings his hand underneath hers and waves it. Then the Mishnah says, "Heinif v'higish kamatz." He brought it to the mizbeach. Hoya mashke v'achakach makra v'sminchasa. First, he gave her to drink, and then he brought the mincha. So the Gemara says, how could the Mishnah say that first she drinks the water and then makrav the mincha, when the Mishnah previously discussed the mincha and says that he actually was makter the mincha? He actually threw something onto the mizbeach. Now the Mishnah says, oh, first drink and then be makrav the mincha. So the Gemara says, this is hachikama. The Mishnah doesn't want to interrupt. Hachikama, say the menachas ketzad. How is a normal mincha brought? Right? It gives you the order of a regular mincha. First, it gives you the list of how a mincha is set up, and then you plug in by a saita what we're going to do. First, the kohen waves it, brings it close, touches it with the mizbeach. Kamatz, he scoops up a piece of the flour, v'hikter, and he brings it on the fire. The rest is eaten to the kahanim. Uvahashka by a saita gufa plig Rab Shimon Rabbanim. In the hashka, drinking. That is, in essence, a machlokes between Rav Shimon and Rabbanan. Exactly where do you plug it in? Rabbanan says you plug in the drinking prior to the maktar on the mizbeach, prior to the kohen throwing that kmitza onto the mizbeach. Mashka, first you drink. V'achakach makrav es minchasa. First you drink the saita water. She drinks, and then the kohen is makrav the mincha. Rav Shimon says no. First makrav es minchasa. He first throws the mincha onto the mizbeach, burns that up. V'achakach mashka, and then you drink the waters. Shenema, because it's pasuk says v'achar yashka. Then after the bringing of the mincha, yashka, he should take a drink. But Rab Shimon says when hishka v'achakach hikrav is minchasa. If you did reverse, if she actually drank and then was makar of the mincha, kishera, it's effective. It will still be kosher soita waters. Now we go to the Yotesam base Tanur Rabbanim. Now just very simple. You would think that, bring it up on the screen, you would think that Rav Shimon's correct, because the Torah says after you bring the mincha, you should drink. But here I'm bringing it up on the screen. If you will notice that the Chumash says first the hishka seisha. First it says one time the woman should drink. Then the Torah discusses for two psukim the mincha, and then Torah says the kamatza kohen does the kamitza and the hiktar mizbecha. So first it discusses drinking, then the mincha, then the two times the Seir says v'achar yashka, and then she should drink, and then it pasuk says v'hishka samayim, she should drink the waters. So we have to understand, when does she drink the waters? So the Chachamim are going to learn, which is not mentioned, which is in our Mishnah, that the v'hishkas isha, the first time it says v'hishkas isha, that's the main thing. She drinks before drinking the mincha waters. But Rav Shimon is going to learn that the Torah says drink after the mincha. So let's read the Gemara, because there is a new Tana over here. Tana Rabbanim, the Hishka. The Torah says drink before bring makar of the mincha. Ma Talmud loymar. How could you interpret that pasuk that she drinks before the mincha, before bringing the mincha? Like Farnema, but the pasuk says v'hishka, she should drink after the mincha. So really, by the way, this is going to be the opinion of Rabbi Kiva, that she does drink. Rabbi Kiva is somewhat equal to Rav Shimon, that she drinks after bringing the mincha. So then why does the Torah say she should drink before drinking the mincha, bringing the mincha? The Torah is telling you, Megillah, if the Megillah was erased, let's say they accidentally started erasing the Megillah, the document, in the waters before the mincha. Really, they should push it off as late as possible and start erasing it after bringing the mincha. But let's say they erased the document prior to bringing the mincha. And now, once the document is raised, it's the end of the game. She can never back out. We would actually force her to drink it. So that's what the Mishnah says. If the Megillah got erased, Voimeris, and she said, Eini Shaisa, I don't want to drink. Maran Oiso Mashkin Oiso Balkarcha. We pry her mouth open and we force the drink down against her will. Divrei Rabbi Akiva, because really she has a good claim. She can say that, look, you're not supposed to erase the Megillah until after the mincha is brought, and I still have time to back out until after the mincha is brought. But the Chumash says, but if somehow the Hishka says that if it was erased prior to bringing the mincha, the Hishka, she's going to be forced to drink that water no matter what. So that's the Rabbi Kiva's opinion. Rav Shimon says again, he also agrees that first you bring the mincha, and then of course she drinks. But then va'acha yeshka. But what does the Torah says after you drink? Ma tamad loima va'loy kvar nema v'hishka. The Torah says that she drinks. As she drinks, the Torah said the third time va'achar v'hishka isha, that it should come after the mincha. So va'achar yashka, the second time it says that she should drink, which is the first time after bringing the mincha. The Torah says she should drink after the mincha. What's that teaching me? The Torah says there's three things that we have to. This has to happen in order for her to drink the waters. Magid, it comes to teach you, and this is already Pesach. Magid, Gimel Dvar Ma'akvin Ba. The three things that stop a woman from drinking the waters. It's not possible. If it's prior to the makriv. If the Megillah was not erased, she doesn't drink waters. Until she accepts an oath. So the Gemara is going to explain. Achar Yashka means, according to Reb Shimon, teaches you that we're strict about it. You have to have these three things in place, and then we make her drink. Until after until after they were makriv the koimitz, she doesn't drink. Reb Shimon Tameh, because Reb Shimon explained the Omar, he says makriv es minchasa. First, you makriv the mincha, you throw the koimitz on the mizbeach, and then you drink. Until the Megillah is erased, right? Then that stops her from drinking. We learned what if the Megillah was not erased, she doesn't drink. Well, that's no novelty. If they didn't erase the document into the water, elamai mashkala, what is she drinking? Water with dirt? Of course, you have to erase the document in the water. Ravashi, but Ravashi says that Chumash is teaching you it has to be totally erased. If there is a stain still on the document from the original writing, that's not enough. You have to totally erase it in the water. So she's standing around. It may take an hour until they totally erase the water, the maybe longer, the document in the water. And until it's totally erased, she can't drink. And then the one thing that stops her from drinking, she has to accept the oath. If she didn't accept the oath, she doesn't drink. So the Gemara asks, she wouldn't drink if she didn't accept the oath. Would you write the document prior to the oath? Rava says in Megillah Sotah that was written, the document was written before she accepted an oath. It's meaningless. The document has to be written after the oath. So what's Reb Shimon teaching you? That the pasuk is teaching you that if she didn't accept the oath, she can't drink the water. Not only if she didn't accept the oath, but she can't even write the document until she accepts the oath. So that takes further up the chain. So Gemara says that's of course he didn't have to teach us that. That's obvious. That the first thing you got to do is take the oath. Then you write it down. Then you bring the mincha, and then you erase it, and then you have it to drink. Now, one last thing, and then we'll end. But my kami palgi, what is this argument? Why do Rabbanan say that she drinks prior to the mincha, and Rav Shimon and also Rabbi Akiva say you drink after the mincha? So, like we explained, like we showed it on the screen, because the Chumash says 3 times that she drinks. First, the pasuk says v'hishka kama, she drinks prior to the mincha. Then the Torah says after the mincha, va'acha yashka, give her to drink after bringing the mincha. And then hishka basra, and the Torah says give her a drink. And that pasuk also says after the mincha. So the Rabbanan Savre, Rabbanan hold the hishka kama legufa. The first time it says she should drink, that's the main time that she drinks. She drinks prior to the kohen being makriv of the mincha. Shemashka, you first drink, va'acha makriv es minchascha. Then you makriv the mincha. Then the Chumash says va'achar yashke. When the Chumash says that after the mincha she drinks, that teaches you that it totally has to be erased and no stain on the document of ink in order for her to drink. So va'acha yashke means after you do the total erase. The Chumash says make sure that it's totally erased before you give her to drink. The hishka baskra, and then the Torah says another time she has to drink. What does that mean? Why? And I guess when I was doing the psukim, this is the way I read it. The Ishka Basra teaches you not that she's drinking after the mincha. She already drank before the mincha, but the Torah is saying the Hishka, you have to force her to drink. If you first erase the document and then she says, I'm not drinking it, we pry her mouth open and we force her down to drink against her will. So that is clearly the shita of the Chachamim. Review, Chachamim holds, she drinks, you erase the document, of course she takes the oath, you write up the document, you erase the document in the water, she drinks, then the kohen is makriv of the mincha. That's the seder according to the Rabbanan. Rav Shimon says, no, you first bring the mincha, and then you erase the document. You try to erase it, later. And then she drinks after the mincha. When the Torah says afterwards, legufa, afterwards, that's the main time she drinks after the mincha. First you makriv the mincha, and then you drink. The Torah says v'hishka kama. The first time the Torah says she drinks, and it's mashma. What is that v'hishka teaching you? What that v'hishka? The first time it says she should drink was written prior to the bringing of the mincha. So the Torah says that so Rav Shimon learns Shim Hishka, but the Torah is speaking if ex post facto. If you didn't do it the way the Torah wanted you to do it, Torah wants you to give makar of the mincha, then to give the drink. If you did it reverse and you gave it to drink and then you makar of the mincha, that's also good. That's what the Hishka Kama is teaching you. Hishka Baskra, but the second time the Torah writes, the last time the Torah writes she should drink. She said Megillah got erased, and she says, I'm not drinking. And then we pry her mouth open and we force her down to drink. So really, the way the Chumash starts off is, according to Rab Shimon, that even though the Torah wrote she should drink right away, the Torah is talking about an ex post facto case, that if she drank before the mincha, that's also okay. So Rabbanan disagree the way Rav Shimon learned the psukim, because b'di'evad like pasuk the pasuk will not start with the ex post facto case. So according to Rav Chachamim, we got the screen up. The hishka is isha, you drink before the mincha, and then va'acha yashka teaches you that it has to be totally erased. The hishka as Samaya means we force it, even if she says, "Oh, I don't want to drink." Once the Megillah is erased, we force it down her throat. One point, though, is Rabbi Akiva is somewhat similar to Rab Shimon, and he holds va'acha yashke is the main point that she drinks after the mincha, but the hishka teaches you what Rabbi Akiva teaches you is not that if you reverse the orders, the hishka kama. The first time it says v'hishka is not that if you reverse the order. If you reverse the orders, Rabbi Akiva will hold it's no good. But if what he holds is that if the Megillah was erased, even if she didn't drink it, she can't say, I'm not going to drink it. But we don't give her to drink under no circumstances prior to bringing the mincha. Where Rab Shimon is more lenient. He says that she potentially could drink prior to bringing the mincha, ex post facto, if they did it already. Okay, so that squares off the main opinions between Rabban and Rab Shimon when a Sotah waters would drinks the water, and Rabbi Akiva's opinion.